Have you ever wondered what Back to the Future would be like if had Lil Wayne instead of Chuck Berry? Let me tell you. I'm going to talk to you today about Long Division by Kiese Laymon. And it's almost impossible to give a good, succinct description of the plot. I've tried so many times, and I've failed so many times to describe the plot to this book. We filmed a version of this review about 2 months ago, and Brian, the director, said, every time you've done the plot summary to this, you said something completely different. You haven't described the book in the same way more than once at all.
True story.
And so I can get the highlights pretty well. It's 2013, where we've got a 14-year-old boy named City. He's from Jackson, Mississippi, and City finds a book, also called Long Division, about a 14-year-old boy in 1985. He's from Jackson, Mississippi, and his name is City. Intrigue, right? It gets you cooked. But then, after that, it gets complicated. This is where my ability to sort of summarize and describe the book really fails. He's got 2013 City, and he's been sent to stay in Mellahachie, Mississippi, which is not a real place, on the Mississippi's Gulf Coast, to get a bit of country granny, choose your own switch style discipline after he has this meltdown / profanity ridden rant on national television. And there's this girl named Baze Shepherd who should have been at that same can you use that word in a sentence contest, the sort of patronizing racist version of a spelling bee where City had his freak out. But Baze has disappeared, or she's been kidnapped or something, so she wasn't there. But then in the book that 2013 City finds, and there's 1985 City who's been staying with his grandmother in Mellahachie, and he travels to 2013, and he meets Baze Shepherd, and he steals her laptop. And 1985 City and the love of his life, Shayla Crump, are trying to find out why Shayla doesn't exist in 2013. And then 2013 City's rant ends up on YouTube, and he's internet famous. But then some rednecks beat him up, and ends up on World Star. And then 1985 City and Shayla go to 1964, and they meet this Jewish kid, and they run into the Ku Klux Klan. And then, that's not even everything that's going on. That's just getting started. So obviously the plot is complicated. And like a lot of complicated plots, it doesn't all tie up so nicely at the end. In order to get into this book, you've kind of got to be okay with that idea that you're going to twist through this complex story and not end up with a nice, happy, quiet ending at the end. So if you've read Haruki Murakami or you've read Samuel Delany's Dhalgren, you're sort of used to that kind of ending. But otherwise, prepare yourself, because it's not always going to tie together at the end. You also have to be okay with the book raising all of these big, uncomfortable, important questions and not providing any answers to these questions, right? The book is about race and identity. City is a black kid, and he lives in a black community. It's a community that's been impacted by Katrina and the Deep Horizon oil spill. And even though the book is not about those things, it's impossible to remove those events from the identity of this community, from the history. They've impacted the community as much as the lynch mobs and the civil rights movements and all of that has impacted this community. And those are events that they're tied into race. They bring up issues of race and southernness and marginalization, and it's hard. You can't remove those issues from the oil spill and the hurricane. And I can't help but contrast this book to The Help by Catherine Stockton, which I have to admit I have not read the book, but I've seen the movie, and that's what I'm going to base my judgments on here. But in The Help, you've got 1963 Mississippi, and it's kind of like, look how far we've come. Look how silly these racist people in Mississippi are. Can you believe that people acted like that? And in Long Division, it's like, can you believe that people acted like that? But has anything changed that much? And it does. There's some contrasting. There's some things have changed, but some things haven't changed. And These are things that we need to talk about. These are questions we need to ask, and it makes us uncomfortable to think about these things, but we need to think about them. And that's sort of the importance of this book, I think. And it's going to help start a dialogue about some important issues, perhaps. If you read it with a teenager, talk about it. And that's Long Division by Kiese Laymon. If you like this book review, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, check out the library on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Pinterest, we're on Instagram. And we've got a great book blog called Off the Shelf that you can check out on the library's website.
This book isn't as long as Dhalgren or Haruki Murakami.
No, not at all. It's like 250 pages, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you read Dhalgren and you're like, I'm never reading anything like that ever again, this is way better. Maybe that's a judgment call that I don't want to make. But it's definitely an easier read. Right?